Hi, Lisa. Can you hear me? I'm not showing on my. It says you've joined the room, so welcome to Life is the Pits podcast. Joining me today is my good dear friend, Lisa Hermiston, who happens to also be a crazy dog lover like myself. And we're going to go over the many pups who've been part of her life as well. Welcome so much, Lisa.
Thank you, Marla. I'm glad to be here tonight.
It's very, very happy that you could join me. I know you, like myself, just recently got a new member of your family, a new furry family member recently, like within the past year. So I would love for you to introduce us to your new pup.
Well, my puppy is 14 months old now, and his name is Diesel. He is a purebred miniature schnauzer, and he's black and white, like salt and pepper is what the breed standard calls his coloring. And he is at times an absolute joy in our lives. And at times he's an absolute terror. So he's still a puppy.
Yeah, right. I know. I was joking around about puppy because Piper just turned a year just this last week. And I always joke around about it's a love-hate relationship with puppies. You love them
And
so
I'd like
much.
to know how in Diesel's mind, or any puppy, how do they decide which commands they're going to learn and follow faithfully and just like be absolutely solid in, and which ones they choose to absolutely ignore every time?
like, why are they so good at selective hearing? It's so funny. I keep thinking like I'll say something to Diesel or to Piper that I know she knows the command, and she'll look at me like, "What? I've never heard that before." No, you know it. I know you know
Yeah, yeah. Somewhere we have trained them that some of the commands might be optional.
it. Exactly. Unintentionally optional. Yes.
Yep. Yes, exactly.
I find it funny. I was joking around about how, there's so many things you could train your dog on and everything. And I was joking around with another friend, and I said, dogs are like the IKEA furniture version of pets. The work you put in to get what you want back is to be solid is if you put the work in. They don't come prepackaged, just ready to
That
be on display.
that is absolutely right. Yes.
So you went through a breeder. Did you do any like research on selecting the type of dog first, or was it just a type of dog that you've wanted to be part of your life for a while?
Well, in January, on January 13th of 2022, I held my last dog's paw as he had to be put down due to an injury. And after he was gone, the house was so empty. And I decided that no, I'm not ready to get my own dog yet. But I decided to start puppy sitting for colleagues. I'm a teacher. I work in a school. And so I just kind of threw it out there to my staff that if anybody was going away, I would love to look after their dogs. And it just so happened that a colleague had a son that played hockey. And so he was gone to tournaments a lot on the weekend. And we looked after their miniature schnauzer, who happened to be named Murphy.
Aw,
I know.
that was
And
Lisa's dog's name who recently left.
yes, yeah. So that Murphy was a soft-coated Wheaten Terrier. We could talk about him later,
You
but
could,
yeah. So we had this miniature Schnauzer Murphy who was just like this amazing little critter. He was so smart and so portable. And when I say portable, I mean a Wheaten Terrier is a 40-pound, big, tall dog. And these little miniature schnauzers are 20 pounds at the max. and you can just pick them up and take them, and they just are easy to be around. So anyway, we looked after Murphy, and he just melted our hearts. We really grew attached to the breed, how fearless they are, and what very good watchdogs they are. Like nothing moves around the house or the yard without Diesel telling us about it. So that's an aspect of that breed that we really kind of admired. Anyway, so it just so happened that back in spring of 2023, we decided it was time to look for a dog of our own. And so I decided, or with my partner Jason, we decided that a miniature schnauzer was what we were going to pursue. He kind of wanted a Rottweiler, and I said, like, honey, remember we liked the portable aspect of a dog. A Rottweiler is not such. So anyway, I did some more research on the dog, their origins, their German in ancestry, and some of the typical characteristics of the miniature schnauzer to get to know. And then I looked on the internet for different breeding programs around and started making phone calls. I phoned a few in Alberta. I phoned a couple in Saskatchewan, and I happened to find a breeder that was only about 2 hours away from my home. And she talked to me, and basically at the end of the conversation, she says to me, I feel like I was just interviewed, like she as the breeder was interviewed. And she goes, usually it's the other way around. She wants to make sure that the families are right for her dogs. Whereas when I was done questioning her, she figured it was the other way around.
That's the true aspect of you, though.
that would be a me thing, yes. But one of the things that she agreed that I would be a good family to have one of her dogs. So that was good. But she also stressed that she was breeding not for just the cute color patterns that can be found in schnauzers, but she was breeding for good, solid family dogs that were good with children and, adaptable to a family situation and stuff. And I feel she has lived up to her breeding intentions. So we decided to go on the waiting list, and on July 25th of 2023, our Diesel was born. He was a litter of 5, and we decided we wanted a male. And wouldn't you know, our name had been on the wait list first, and so we got first pick of the 3 males of his litter. And I hate to admit it right now, but we picked him based on color because we saw these YouTube videos of the puppy introductions, and Diesel was pretty well solid black. He had a couple little marks on his chest, and his little paws, like his toe beans sort of thing, were white. And he was just the cutest little puppy, and he was calm. And you really can't judge from a YouTube video what a puppy is going to turn out like.
Right.
In fact, it probably took a good 3 or 4 months of him being in our home before we really found his personality coming out.
Right.
And as he grew and stuff. So if you wanted some advice on picking a puppy, I really have none. And as far as the coloring, so he went from just about solid black, and as he has grown, he has changed colors. And now he is the absolute standard salt and pepper. He's got what we call kind of the angel wings on his chest that are white, and the rest of him is black. He's got beautiful silver colored ears and a lighter silver beard. But yeah, that's how we picked our dogs. So I guess if I go back, I would pick him again because he's just the sweetest thing, right?
It's funny with his coloring now. He's gonna be able to hide his age. He's like he won't. He's not. He's already got the silver kind of in the snout area, like you said. So he's gonna be able to hide how old he is when he gets older.
Absolutely. Well, and anybody that knows what a miniature schnauzer standard cut looks like, they're meant to look like an old man. They have big bushy eyebrows and then a long beard. Right now we have him in a teddy bear cut, which means that he's got like a rounded face instead of a long beard.
Right.
And that's just because I don't want to comb him every day.
You wanted to make it easy on yourself.
Exactly. But he does have fluffy legs, and we're growing the skirt under his belly, and his top is all shaved short. So he does look like a typical schnauzer.
That's awesome. And how did you decide on the name? Was that something Jason contributed, or did you go for that? Because I'm kind of thinking, since Jason wanted a Roddy, Diesel would be a really good name for a Roddy too.
It absolutely would. Well, there's a couple of funny stories about that. The first is the past breed of dog that I had, the soft-coated Wheaten Terrier, is from Ireland. And so to pick his name, I just went on the internet and put boys' Irish names, and up comes Murphy. Well, just a perfect Irish name, right?
Yeah.
So we decided to go for a German name. So we went on the internet again, male German names. And Diesel comes up, and Jason just said, "That's the one I want." Now, the other funny part is that my brother has a dog, and my brother works at a Dodge car dealership.
Okay.
And of course, the Dodge makes an engine called a Hemi.
Yeah.
And so they have called their dog Hemi after a Hemi engine. And so now I have a Diesel, and I guess you can find Diesel engines.
That's right. That's funny.
Yeah.
That's
But
funny.
as far as naming a dog, I think it's whatever attaches to your heart. And, you kind of look at the breed and say it's a courageous little tough breed. So I don't want a wimpy name, right? It's got to be a good substantial name as well.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
I know, it's funny because, like, with Pixie, when I got her from the rescue, that was already her name. I didn't change it because I thought she was like almost 6 months old when I got her, so I didn't bother changing it. I didn't think it was right to change it because she'd been called that for so long. And everybody laughed at me when I told her name, because she's an 85-pound dog, ended up being 85 pounds of the name Pixie. So people would just laugh when I told her that, and when I told them that this is her name, and it was just like, but you don't understand, everything else except for her size perfectly fit the name, because she was very playful, very high energy, very friendly, very goofy, a little impish because she liked to get into things she shouldn't. It fit perfectly except for her size. Sometimes names just work. They just fall into the names and they just work.
Exactly. Today, I was actually talking to one of the high school students in the school that I work at, and they just got a brand new puppy on the weekend. And it is a 9-week-old Cane Corso, and they called it Convict.
Oh my goodness.
So I'm not sure what that puppy's going to grow up into, but
hopefully he grows up being a big mushy teddy bear, totally opposite of that name.
I hope so.
Oh, see, that's the funny thing is, like, how big was Diesel when he first came to live with you? When he was like 8 weeks old? Like how many pounds?
I believe, if I remember correctly, he was tipping the scales at like 4 pounds.
Okay. And is he now at his full 20 now, or do you think he'll need to get to the 2-year?
No, he is totally full grown.
He's full grown.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I figure he's been full grown since he was about eight months old. he hasn't got any bigger, but I do know that his winter coat from last year is too small. So for some time between winter and now, he has grown into his full himself. So
Yeah. So you need to buy a new winter coat, Shelfine.
yeah.
As long as it wasn't due to too many cookies, we're okay. Just
Yeah,
growing
exactly.
and not too many cookies.
Yeah.
So,
well, he likes his treats too, of course.
Who doesn't? Come on.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So when Diesel, like when you started doing training and everything, did you just work with a trainer or did you start on your own?
I started on my own, and then when he was about 8 months old, we did puppy school classes at a trainer near our home.
Okay.
And that was really good because Diesel needed to be socialized. He was reactive to other dogs when we went down the street, and he was wanting their attention.
Right.
And he didn't know how to get it in a positive way. So I decided that socialization at puppy class was going to be the way to go. And as far as the training, I downloaded a course called Masterclass, and it was put out by an agency out of the United States that trains service dogs.
Okay.
So this was their method. And they had their first command that they teach all of their puppies was actually quite unusual. And it wasn't sit, it wasn't stay. It was a command called touch. And the idea was from a very young age, you get the dog used to coming back, because recall can be really hard, especially with some breeds that are meant to be like very independent breeds, and a schnauzer is. The recall is really hard to teach. So touch, I would put a treat in the palm of my hand and cover the treat with my thumb. And the idea is when I put my hand down kind of towards the floor and say the command touch, he is to come, and when his nose touches my palm, you release the treat.
Oh.
And he has a much better recall than my Wheaton did.
Oh, that's
much
awesome.
better.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's a little bit different than how my trainer teaches a recall. Like she was teaching the traditional, come or whatever the command was. And I said, I'm not untraining Diesel. He already comes well to the command touch. And so that was a neat part of the training that was different than the last time I did training.
So did you guys kind of take turns off, like both you and Jason doing it so that he would listen to both of you?
Yes. And we worked at it, did our homework in between the classes, of course, in the evenings. And we would work for a good 20 minutes, half an hour on whatever it was, whether it was the watch command where they have to look in your eyes and stay focused on you, or different training things like go to your place, which is a specific spot in the house, and stay there, that kind of thing. So, yeah. And you're absolutely right. It's very important for all the humans in the pack to be on the same wavelength with the training commands and stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. It's because I know, like, if you don't have that same idea of what you're training, or you're using two different types of command, like if Jason would have started using a different type of command, poor Diesel might have been a little confused and not understood what it means, right? So yeah, it's good that you were able to train together. So then did you all go to the puppy class as a family, the three of you?
I went by myself for, I think, 4 of the classes, and Jason came for the other 4 classes. Yeah.
Did they recommend that to start with? Because I know there was a class like when I had Pixie, because she was a little reactive to certain dogs, like, and I went to the Humane Society here in Calgary, and they recommended for the first couple classes just to bring one person from the family, and then add in more. Did the training class you wanted to? Did they recommend that, or was that just happened to be your schedule?
It was purely our schedule.
Oh.
And I don't think there was any direction given by the trainer, because I looked around at other couples that brought their dogs, and sometimes it was one and sometimes it was both. Like, yeah, depending on what the people's schedule in the house was, who could make it that night. But I think the important part is that the practice of the training in between the lessons is done by both people.
Right. So you can have sessions there too. Like I noticed, so when you got the puppy, did you start doing like this schedule, like walk at this certain time as well and things like that?
Yes, I did, only because I walked him before I went to work.
Okay. I just thought it was
goes into the schedule.
Yeah. I just thought it's interesting because I know I keep referring to Pixie for this, but with her, she was such a high energy dog. And I noticed the same with Piper. So when I go and do the walk, sometimes the walk doesn't tire them out enough.
Mm-hmm.
But I do know if you put some training in, so you're kind of like mentally stimulating them as well as physical, that seems to be the combination that kind of tires them out. Like Penny is kind of like a bit of a couch potato. So, I mean, she picks up things fairly quickly, but she also tires out pretty quickly. Whereas Piper's very much like Pixie, where got that high energy. And if you don't use the two together, she's never going down being tired for the day.
You're exactly right. Part of the training that I also did, partly because it just amazed me how smart schnauzers are, is I got some of those games.
Oh, yep. Like the food puzzles or whatever.
Food puzzles. Thank you. That's what I was thinking about. I got a level 1, a level 2, and a level 4.
Okay.
And Diesel has a tough time with level 4 because it's like a 2-step or a 3-step to get the treat, but he knows the treat's there. And I truly think if I just let him puzzle it out and mentally work it, he would be able to do it. But I used those food puzzles as part of the training because, like you say, I wanted to mentally tire him out as well. They got to think.
Yeah, exactly. That mental stimulation is a big thing for dogs like that have high energy. Absolutely. It's funny.
Yeah.
I found I did the food puzzles with Pixie as well. I haven't tried them with Piper yet because Piper's still in the destructo phase, so she would just chew her way through the toy. I don't think she'd learn how to get anything out of it except by, tearing the toy apart. She's still kind of in that, oh, let's see what I can do and break this. So I might wait for a couple more months until she is more, a little older, maybe, just to get her into those kind of things. Because I do have a couple left from when I had Pixie. So,
oh yeah,
yeah.
Even a snuffle mat.
Yeah, I bought one of those.
For kibble and
yeah,
that's
really good. It's funny though because I'll lay out the snuffle mat for her, or for Penny or whichever one, but she'll just decide, oh, what's in here, and she'll carry it away. So she's figured out that if I lift it up, some of the kibble falls out. So she has kind of found a little way around that one, unfortunately.
Yeah, exactly.
Funny. So then, after you got Diesel, you just worked at home with him for a bit, and then you went to the training. And now, what are his days like when you go to work?
When I go to work, if Jason's home, he is out of his kennel, but he goes back into his kennel for his like afternoon nap.
Right.
And we do find that he still needs to have some time by himself. And it's really good for dogs to be by themselves. They shouldn't need to be by a human at all times, right? Like it's like self-soothing a baby sort of thing. And I don't put any force into. That's right. Yeah, he's happy. Now the little goober can hear us coming, from the garage or whatever. And even in the house, he's yipping because he's happy we're home, wanting out of his crate, that kind of thing. But he's very happy in his crate. One of the tricks that I taught him was to go in your house. And in the mornings, if he's going into his crate for the time while I'm at work, I take a treat and I say, go to your house. And he goes and stands by his house. He goes in. I never have to like manhandle him to get him in his crate. He has always gone in of his own volition, right? And he gets his little treat. He lays down and he has a sleep for a while. So I think he's very happy there. I've always crate trained. I believe that is their space. Mm-hmm. And as a result, whenever I've had friends over that have kids, I make it very clear that the kids do not go in the crate. Right. That is his house. And I don't want to ever have to deal with like a biting situation because he needs to protect his house, right? Yeah. So I find like it's never been a problem. Kids just go, oh, okay, fine.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
That's good.
But with my last dog, Murphy, if you want to talk about crate training, he loved his house. And if he was being bad, mischievous, and I needed to discipline him, I could be anywhere in the house. And I would say, Murphy, go in your house. And he would tootle in there because I always left the door open. And he would like put himself in puppy jail. He'd just sit there, and when Mom said he could come out, then
he would come out. But when you put him in there for like, did you close the door too, or did he just know to stay in there?
Well, it depended.
Okay.
When he was older, he knew to stay in there and I didn't have to shut the door. And eventually he just realized, oh, I've kind of crossed the line, and he would like have a nap or whatever.
Right.
Sometimes I would shut the door just to remind him that I'm the leader of the pack.
Yeah.
And if I want to shut your house door, I will. That kind of thing.
That's funny. I know. I did crate training with Pixie. I've done it with Penny, and Piper's been in the crate a couple times. I haven't put her fully in a crate situation. It's more jail right now for her. But yeah, and it was funny though, because Pixie figured out how to get out of her crate. So we had problems with that.
Oh, I'm sure. Diesel sleeps every night in his crate.
Okay.
And like he's never ever slept in a bed, so he doesn't know what that is.
Right.
He just goes into his house on his big old mat, and he's good.
And do you close the door at nighttime then?
Oh, yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yep. He's in there. That's his house. And he pretty well wakes up about 6:30 every morning, even on Saturdays.
Right.
Thankfully, hey.
It's the schedule.
It's the schedule. So, yeah, I think he's very happy, and I've always enjoyed dogs that have their space in their crate. They know that they are safe there. And with Murphy, we took him to dog shows. And so it's important that a dog is very happy in their crate when you're taking him to a show with 100 other dogs in there, right?
Right.
Yeah, for sure.
It's definitely a lot of people use it for like safe space as well. Like a lot of people love having that idea that their dog has that place to go for, like you said, self-soothing, keep them comfortable, and it does, I think it does a lot. It does definitely help prevent any, unfortunate issue between people and pets. If you have visitors, people who are not comfortable around the dogs.
Yeah,
It's
you're
definitely.
exactly right. Well, and I've never thought of a crate as a punitive thing. It's not a jail
No.
for him. It is his house. And you know how some of us don't realize that we need to go lay in our bed and shut the door for a while for our own mental health? I have a feeling that dogs think the same way, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah, exactly. Oh, I've had enough of you, Lisa. You've been mauling me all day. I'm going to my house.
Yes, exactly. You're exactly right.
That's funny.
Yeah.
Yeah. Did you ever
Now,
do clicker training? Have you ever done clicker training with either of your dogs?
I tried it with Murphy, and I think it was me that was really not smooth in the using of the clicker. So I never pursued it very much. Murphy didn't really need that, but I wanted to try it because our trainer at the time had suggested we give it a try.
Right. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I tried it with Pixie too, and I think it probably would have worked. I'm similar to you. Like, I don't know that it really, it was something that I was comfortable with because I'd be like, oh, I'd forget to click it. I'd give her the treat. You know what I mean? Like how they want it timed so just right. Click
Yeah.
treat, click treat. I'd be like, oh, here's the treat. And I'd forget to use the clicker. So I think it was definitely something that was not working for me. Not so much with Pixie.
Yeah, she probably caught on quick, but
Yeah,
it's her damn human, hey?
I know exactly. Those humans, they do so much. Uh, and
Um,
oh, sorry, go ahead.
so the purpose of training Murphy was I had a couple of friends who also had puppies around the same age. And we lived in a little town in Saskatchewan called Priestville. It's about an hour north of Yorkton. And the Yorkton Shamrock Kennel Club offered obedience classes. And so it was an outing for the humans. And we would crate up sometimes 4 or 5 dogs on a Wednesday night and head down to Yorkton. And we did training. And it just so happened that all of us humans actually joined the kennel club as well. And so we had the privilege of being able to go to any subsequent obedience classes for free. And so it became a real social outing for both the adults and the dogs. I think Murphy took puppy school like 5 times, and then we went through, well, just because he wasn't needing it. He knew all the commands. He was a very well trained dog by that time, but we would get together and he was one of the leader dogs then, right? Because he'd taken the classes. And after all the puppies were done, we would stay and we would do more advanced and actually went to dog shows and competed in Rally O, which is rally obedience. And at that time, you had to have CKC papers to put your dog in, but that has changed. They now have Rally O for mixed breeds as well. And so I think it's just a wonderful opportunity for humans to get together with their dogs and do purposeful training. Mm-hmm. Because all of the different aspects of Rally O, the left hand turn, the right hand turn, the stop, the wait, all of those different commands. In the competition, what you're doing is practicing for those real life situations when you want your dog to be able to do that certain command, right?
Right.
But Murphy was not so much into competing. In order to get a Rally O degree, you have to have passing mark in 3 different competitions. So the first competition was in Yorkton in August. So Murphy would have been 9 months old. And I get in the ring and this little dog is looking at me. And I mean, I am his person. So he's looking at me going, Mom, what are we doing here?
Who are
And
all
we
these
got
people?
through. Oh, it was so heart wrenching because I was in knots and very nervous about this whole experience as well. And I think that nervousness traveled down the leash into my dog because we got to about the third or fourth different thing that they were supposed to do. And Murphy looks up at me and pees on the floor. So that's an automatic disqualification. So there goes your entry fee and your travel and all your, getting ready for this big show.
Yeah.
And he's done in the first 30 seconds of this competition. But the good news is he did go on. He got his degree in Oakville, Manitoba. We traveled there one weekend and he did just fine. But I said, now that we've done this, we are done, because I realized that the competition part of the training was not for me either. I was extremely nervous and it traveled down the leash. That's all I can say.
I 100% believe that too. Like, I believe whatever energy you're putting out there, your dog picks up on that 100%. And if you're nervous, if you're upset, because I know I used to have this Pixie, like she's a rescue, so she was on her own for a bit when she was younger, and I don't know what happened, but she got to the point where she would be nervous around men wearing ball caps and hoodies.
Oh,
Like, really, to the point where, like, she would tuck her tail. She was never aggressive or mean or anything, but she was nervous. And when we would be out on a walk, I would see someone off in the approaching us, or, far enough away that I would get tense up. And I noticed she would tense up too when this person approached us. And I was like, if I wasn't doing that, how would she react? So I'm really positive that my tension that I experienced seeing that person approach added to what she was already experiencing. So I honestly believe, I 100% believe with what you saw there with poor Murphy. I honestly believe that whatever energy we're experiencing on the lead, it definitely goes to the pup too.
yeah. Well, if you think of what Cesar Millan does and watch any YouTube video with Cesar Millan in it, he says you take the leash, you put your chin up, and you go.
Yeah.
Like, you give that positive forward energy and your dog's going to respond to that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I like Caesar so for that. I totally like that he said.
Yeah.
And I like the way he approaches it, right? Because he says you don't train the dog. He, like, the way he presents it, he says he never trains the dog. He trains the person, and the person comes to the dog. I think that's the one thing that your puppy, when you have a new puppy, can tell you right away. They can tell you if you're doing a good job or not. If anything that the puppy does, chances are you did or didn't do something that you were supposed to. You did something wrong, or you didn't do something you were supposed to. One of those things usually applies in this situation.
I totally agree. As for Diesel, I have no aspirations of doing competitions or even rally-o at this point. We live in a place where the local kennel club is over an hour and such a way. I just don't see us pursuing that, but I do know the value of it. So any of your listeners, Marla, that are out there that are close to a kennel club or a dog club that does obedience or rally-o, it can be a really, really good experience, especially for the humans. I'll never forget. I learned so much about the personalities and temperaments of different dog breeds. And I remember one show, there was this beagle, and beagles have a nose for, like, anything. We know this, right?
Yeah.
They are so perceptive with their smell. And this beagle was in obedience and had to go into like a 3-minute sit. And in this competition, there's like 100 different dogs, and this beagle's nose must have been just driving him crazy to want to go find out what's out there. But
When we
wouldn't you
talk
know?
with all these friends I could be making friends, and you're making me sick.
Exactly. Instead, my mom's making me sit here, and she's like nowhere to be found, and I need to go find my mom. And wouldn't you know, this beagle did it, the long sit, and I was just so proud of that handler and how they had trained their dog. Some other interesting breeds I have run across when we were training is the Shappendos.
Oh, I've never even heard of that one. That's a new.
Oh, they're a hound, not a hound. They're a working dog, and a very light framed dog, but beautiful long coats. They're working farm dogs,
Yeah,
and they're just gorgeous. So yeah,
they kind of
look
look
up
like a
the
little
blue
bit like
sheep.
sheepdog, right? Like they kind of look a little bit like the old English sheepdogs almost.
Well, but a very different frame
Right.
of a dog.
Smaller,
Like
smaller.
very, very much more delicate, but long, beautiful hair. And so they were really nice dogs to get to know. I I ran across some absolutely gorgeous temperament Rottweilers. Like if they weren't over 100 pounds, I would want one. They're just really an awesome dog if they're trained well.
Yes, that's right. We have on our the walk route that I do here in our neighborhood, we have a Yorkie and a Rottie that are brothers in this one house we always walk by. And it's funny because the Yorkie will be like sitting on top of the Rottie. It's the funniest thing. And I'm like if this Rottie wasn't like a good temper, he's a very good temperament dog. Like whenever I've seen him out with his owners, he could like just take a big chomp and that little Yorkie would be gone. But
Oh yeah.
he's just so well behaved. Like they put such good effort into both their dogs. Like, a lot of people when they have really, really small dogs, I think they kind of don't think about the training as much because they're like, oh, I can just pick them up and walk away. Right? Like
Yeah.
I can pick them up and get them out of whatever bad situation they're in. But this family, I've only ever seen the husband or, out walking with them, but you could tell he works like very well with that dog because that dog walks in like heel formation with him every
Yeah.
time I've seen him. Is amazing. But then when they're in the yard, like he doesn't bark when dogs walk by. He'll do like one little woof to say, yeah, this is my yard. Keep on going. That's what it does. And you can just tell that, that dog's got a good temperament because he doesn't go totally crazy when other dogs walk by his house and everything. But I really think it's interesting because even the Yorkie is, it's got that good temperament, get that good training as well. So I've got to admire people who put in the training for both sides of the dogs.
Well, exactly, because it's hard to get down at the level of a Chihuahua or a Yorkie or even a miniature Schnauzer. Like they're pretty low to the ground when you're trying to train them. So
Exactly. I just, cause like, well, Pixie being that bigger dog that she was, and, she was a pit bull type dog crossed with a shepherd. So I couldn't, 85 pounds, sure I could kind of pick her up, but I couldn't pick her up and carry her away. Like if you have Chihuahua being crazy. And so I had to put the work in to make sure she wasn't going to go crazy with
that's right.
against the other, up against other dogs or anything. So that's one thing you have to respect it if people do it regardless of what size the dog they have.
Yes, exactly. And it's important for all breeds of dogs to be socialized properly and trained to be good citizens in our town. Diesel has his moments. I will have to say he still feels very protective of me and Jason when we are out on a walk. And if he sees another dog, he's going to let that other dog know he's the boss.
Right.
And I don't like that. So we are still working on it. And I was going to mention too, Marla, that training doesn't really ever stop, right? Because these dogs, if they get a notion in their head that you don't like what that notion is producing as far as behavior, you have to be responsive to that, right?
Mhm.
So like for a while there, Diesel was awesome on a leash. We'd go around town, we'd see other dogs, no problem, especially if we saw any of the dogs that were also in his puppy school.
Right.
Well, in the past few weeks, we go out for a walk and he barks his head off like a dang fool. So I guess we're taking a step backwards, bringing out the treats when we go for walks and reminding him of the basic stuff. And he doesn't need to protect me.
Right.
Like I have to get that through to him that I'm okay.
Yeah. I think it's interesting though, because I noticed this with Penny now and with Pixie, when Pixie was, we would be out walking and she'd never react to dogs in yards. Do you know what I mean? Like
Okay.
we'd go by a yard, she'd look up at the dog that was kind of barking at her or whatever. And same with Penny, she does that. And then, but if she was in the backyard and someone was walking a dog by our yard, that's when she would bark at the dog. And that's what Penny does too. So I kind of wonder if it's more like, hey, don't come in my yard. You just keep on going by. Like, I'm not sure what the difference is. Like, how come neither of them, like Pixie or Penny, how come they don't react to dogs when we go by their yard, but they react when dogs go by our yard? So I think that was interesting.
Right.
Yes.
And the other thing is that they could be reactive in protection of you too. So I guess you've done a good job in convincing them that you're good. You're good.
You'll get it out for a walk. I'm okay. I'm okay when we're walking.
Yeah.
Just at home.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. I just thought it was interesting because, and then there's a couple dogs, like there's a Bernese mountain dog that walks in our neighborhood as well. And I've noticed him because I know his name, but I don't know his person's name. So I think that's pretty much the way it is when you live in town. If you don't know the people, you know the dogs' names because you see them at the park or whatever.
Yeah.
But I noticed, and that we got talking about that. His person and I were talking about that, and he noticed the same thing. So it's and like we could like this. I would walk with Pixie, with Sully was his name, and they would walk side by side like they're the best friends, and they would never react to each other other than the standard, initial sniff. Hey, it's good to see you, kind of, introduction each time. And then they'd play together, whatever, when we were walking, but they never ever reacted to dogs in yards. So I thought that was kind of interesting. Yeah.
Yeah.
Dogs are crazy. I love them.
Yeah. Well, they are absolutely intuitive.
They are. I agree. I know it's funny. With a lot of times you can see, I think dogs pick up more on things than what we give them credit. I do. Like, I think they have empathy towards their owners and the people who are part of their lives too, because they may notice you're not feeling well and they'll come over to you, or you're having a bad day and they come over to you. Right. So I think that's probably one of the best things about having a dog is that it's not just, a dog and owner, because I really kind of hate that term. I own a dog. I really don't like that. To me, it's more of like a pet guardianship. It's more, I kind of like it, but it's a companion, because they are definitely companion animals. I mean, unless you've got a canine, police canine dog living in your, created in your yard to go to work. And most dogs are trained just to be that companion.
Absolutely. And I think here's where the comment about researching a breed and choosing very purposefully is important, because it can go sideways pretty quick. If you pick, and I don't mean to offend anybody with this, but in general, let's say you pick a border collie and you want him as an apartment dog.
Yeah.
That dog is used to using their brain, problem solving, moving things around. Like what you're doing by sentencing them to living in an apartment
Yeah.
is really some difficulties for the dog, right?
Yeah,
So I
absolutely.
think depending on your living situation and your family situation, I think that is a primary factor on how to choose the right breed.
I agree. I know because it's like a lot of those dogs, like border collies, like you're right, they're super smart, they're high energy, and if you do not have the time, and it's not necessarily like anybody could have the ability. If they put their mind to it, I completely believe that. If you don't have the time to put in to working with that dog, because let's face it, it is a job to make sure your dog is responsible, or you know what I mean, is a good member of society. It's your responsibility. If you don't have that time to put that in, then yeah, you're right. It's not going to be a good fit for you.
Mm-hmm.
And it's funny.
You'll end up destroying your house, and then you resent the dog, and suddenly you need to give it away. And well, you've just told the dog that you're giving up on it, right?
Exactly. And I always think that too about the Belgian Malinois, like those Malinois dogs.
Oh yeah.
Cause just how smart they are. Like you can see people who have these hours and hours that they train with these dogs and things that they can do. And if you don't have the right work ethic with them or to keep them, enough to keep them physically busy, it's going to be a failure, and you're just setting that dog up for failure, and you're setting your house up for destruction is pretty much what it is.
Yeah. I think the other thing to remember when you're choosing a breed is also its grooming requirements. For instance, do you want a husky in your house that is going to shed the equivalent of a pillow every day?
Exactly.
Like, do you really want to put the time into the grooming? Now, a Wheaton Terrier, like I had, you can take an easy way out and keep it short. But if you want the beautiful look of a properly groomed breed, you have to be prepared to train it to accept a daily grooming and then do that daily grooming. And I have to say one thing I regret with my Murphy, he crossed the bridge when he was 13 and a half years old. And I know that he suffered with toothaches. He had to have, because he just would not allow me to brush his teeth when he was young. And so I kind of gave up on it. And his dental care lacked. So it's another aspect, the dental care, the hair grooming, nail clipping, all of that.
Yeah.
You have to think about the needs of the breed that you want.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
And is it going to fit your lifestyle in the fact that, are you going to have time to put into the dog? Are you going to have the cash to put into the dog? Because if you're not going to do the grooming yourself, are you going to find someone that can do that for you?
Right.
You're going to go to a groomer and get the teddy bear cut, like you said, or whatever may apply to type of dogs. Like I have to take my dogs to get their nails trimmed because they will not let me do it. I've tried. I've bought different clippers. I think I've probably bought I bought the little Dremel kind of nail file thing, and I've bought the clippers, the manual clippers, and then these other type of clippers. I think I bought 3 or 4 different clippers and 3 or 4 different type of Dremel thing, or like grinder things. And they just will not let me do it. I take them to where they go to doggy daycare. Their groomer does it. They come home with nice short nails. I'm like, what am I doing wrong that they don't like? I don't know if the groomer there has like a magic trick or what, but they do such a good job for her. They let her do it. It's no problem. But there's something about me.
Oh, I hear you. Jason is able to groom Diesel nightly with the comb,
Okay, yep.
and he won't let me do it. He just wants to eat the comb.
No.
So I think that job now goes to Jason. There you
Yeah.
go.
Jason, here's your chores for the day.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
There's something about it that he sees you with the comb and wants to play with it, and he sees Jason with the comb and he knows Jason's got business to do.
He's got business to do.
Yeah, there's something happening there. He knows there's just something different between the two of you. That's funny.
Sometime on your podcast, Marla, I wonder if you could have a discussion with somebody about modifications to dogs, like your ear cropping and tail docking and that kind of thing, and why there are breeds that are now allowing the standard to change to no docking,
Yeah.
and how people feel about that, because I love the look of a dock tail.
Right.
Like my schnauzer has a dock tail, but he does not have the ears done. Some schnauzers do get their ears done.
Mhm.
My breeder does not.
Right.
And I'm fine with that. But I would not have been fine if she said she didn't dock tails. And I've pondered this.
Yeah.
Why do I want this for my animal when a long tail really doesn't serve any purpose compared to a short tail? Like, why do I like that?
Yeah.
Anyway, I would love to hear what other people have to say about the issue.
Well, I've noticed that with actually Rottweilers now, because a lot of Rotties, the standard has been to dock the tail. And I've started to see more and more, and the same with boxers, actually. I've started to see more and more with boxers and Rotties that they are letting them keep their tails. So I don't know if that's like, is that standard changing or is it something happening? Because I read somewhere I think it was in the UK about not being able to dock tails.
Oh, they've actually banned it in their legislation. Oh.
Yeah. Because in the UK right now, it's illegal to do it, to dock dogs' tails.
Okay.
Unless there are certain working breeds that you can do it for. Other than that, so it's kind of an interesting thing that way. So maybe, there are some laws being written in places that are impacting the Kennel Club standards.
Mm-hmm. Well, and I think there should be. I've been interested in selective breeding as an issue for a long time. And I recently read something that was talking about the development of the modern pug.
Right.
And how if you go back 100 years ago, the pug breed did not have a flat face. That has been bred into it.
Right.
But as a result of that selective breeding for that particular trait, they've also now caused pugs that have all kinds of health issues. Yeah. And the same can be said for the King Charles Cavalier Spaniel. They are being put to sleep at a very young age. Like, I think the resource I was reading said around 5 to 6 years of age, King Charles Spaniels are developing this they go literally crazy.
Oh.
And they think it's because backing for certain traits, like to make a physical trait, it's taking away from a mental trait in that case. But to go back to pugs, in the UK, there now are probably thousands and thousands of pugs, right?
Right.
But they can all trace their lineage back to only 50
pugs
males.
Wow.
So the inbreeding in that particular breed, and like I say, I'm very sorry I don't have the resource to cite where I got this information from. But even if it's only half true,
yeah,
I think I think selective breeding and purposeful breeding for physical traits is not always a good thing.
Mhm. Yeah. It's quite interesting that too, like, cause if you see the different pictures of even bulldogs, like English bulldogs or French bulldogs, they're even starting to be more like more flat faced. Like and so you kind of wonder if that's not impacting more than, you know what I mean? Like impacting a lot of, like, did they decide that was the way it should look, or is that kind of an
Mhm.
accident of a lot of interbreeding? You know what I mean? Like
Yep.
not responsible breeding. So there's some issues that have kind of arisen that way, I wonder.
Right. Right. And let's not even get into doodles.
Yeah, exactly. Oh my
Now,
goodness,
I have
doodles are
been
so
around.
popular, aren't they?
They are, and you know what? The one doodle that I have been around a lot is an absolutely beautiful dog. As far as a beautiful temperament, he's smart. He likes to play. Like the dog is funny. He smiles. What can I say? He's funny. And if all doodles are like him, then I'm in love with that breed too.
There's
Or
some.
is it a breed? Let's go into that one. Is
Yeah,
it still a mixed breed or
I
is
know
it a
that's what.
purebred?
Okay, well, here's the thing though, like they charge you an arm and a leg for those type of dogs now. So you have to
Yeah,
get
exactly.
the right mix. It's really funny to me though too, because there's like what a lot of them that are mixed with the standard poodle. Then there's doodles that are mixed with this with the what is it, the toy poodle? You know what I mean? Like there's got the different
Hmm.
sizes now, and then there's the Bernedoodle, and there's the Golden Doodle, which is what the Golden Retriever poodle mix, poodle cross.
Yeah.
And then there's the Labradoodle, which is the Labrador poodle cross. Now there's a Bernedoodle, like, or the Bernese Mountain Dog poodle cross. It's just like, ah. So it's just like, so I should be making up a name for Pixie's breed, because she was a pit bull type dog crossed with a shepherd. So what do I call her? A pit herd?
Oh.
Like, I don't know. Like, it's just, that's just funny. I don't know. Like, there's a lot of people that they like those mixed things, because they go for, and the breeder goes for, let's let's do the good quality of the poodle, and the good quality of the golden, and let's see what comes out. You get this really friendly, smart dog sometimes.
Yep.
Properly.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes, that is correct.
Yeah.
That is correct.
It's funny.
So you wanted to talk a little bit about the ways different people interact with dogs?
Yes. Like I like the idea that, like, before mom got sick, she lived with me and Pixie. And I noticed that Pixie interacted with me differently than she did with my mom. And Michael was over quite a bit, so part of the family as well. And then she'd interact with Michael differently than she did with me or with mom. And I just think they interact with their pack members differently.
Yes, I do agree. In the case of Murphy, I didn't have a partner at the time. And so it was just me and him.
Right.
We did whatever we want. Now, Wheatons are such lovable family type dogs. We also spent a lot of time with the people that I was training, and they had children and that kind of thing. I should say people I was training with. And so Murphy got to know lots of people, but he definitely knew who his mom was, right? Like that was me. I was his person. When Jason came along in my life, Murphy was very good, was very accepting of him, was very loving to him, but it was different.
Right.
Like when he would, not Diesel, when Murphy would come into the room and there's two people there, he'll sniff at Jason and then come sit by me. Right?
Yeah. So he knew who was the treat dealer and who was the strange guy that was just hanging out here.
Yeah. Now, with Diesel being, we have had him since he was a baby and it was both of us in the house. When we drove home from the breeder with Diesel, my sister-in-law made the comment to me that, oh, whoever gets to hold the dog on the way home is who he's going to attach to. And it just so happened I was driving. So Jason was holding the dog on the way home, but I would say that that hasn't come true in our case. Yeah, no, Diesel definitely, he loves both of us. Like, I mean, if one person walks in the door, they get an equal greeting, put it that way. And he knows when to expect me to come home in a day and when to expect Jason to come in and that kind of thing. But as far as how he treats us, he plays a lot more aggressively with Jason. I'm the one that we play tug of war, and I always make sure he wins after a while, you know, and there's always lots of petting and affection when I'm playing with him. And with Jason, it's like, come on, boy, let's, you know,
it's a rough house.
Let's play. You know, boot the soccer ball as far as you can take it and that kind of thing. So we play very differently together. Now, does he listen to me more than Jason? I would have to say yes as well. Like, I give him my noise. Right. My corrective noise sounds something like this. Huh? And when I do that, Diesel will stop whatever he's doing. And Jason has a different way of doing things that Diesel's kind of selective about whether he's going to listen or not.
That's where the selective hearing comes in, remember, that we were talking about earlier.
Exactly. Now, Jason has found it to be more effective to use like a water squirt bottle, right, in getting his attention if he's doing something that he shouldn't be.
Right. Kind of like how they do that with cats. Sometimes they do that with cats.
Yeah. Like, all he has to do is pick that red squirt bottle up that's sitting on the coffee table, and Diesel stops whatever he's doing real quick.
He doesn't even need the squirt anymore. He just needs Jason to hold the bottle.
That's right. Because sometimes those little cues for a dog, I think, are really important, other than always being verbal.
Yeah.
You know?
It's funny. When I'm in the office, in the room in my house that I use for my office, Penny she likes to sit in the window, and Pixie used to do this too, and they monitor the neighborhood. I swear that's what she's doing.
Oh, yeah.
And if I just poke her in the hip, when I can tell she's getting excited about something. And if I'm on a call, I just poke her in the hip and she just stops. It turns and looks at me and she stops. But if I don't catch her at the right time, I can't guarantee that she'll stop. I'm gonna just touch her on that hip, and she's like, at the right time, she stops. There's no worry about her going alarm dog, you know, so there's no worry about that if I catch her at the right time. If I miss that time, unfortunately, I have to go on mute on the Teams call because she's making an announcement of herself. And I was in and that was actually, it was funny because the company I do work for mostly right now, I was on an interview with them. I was interviewing with the CFO and the manager of HR. And Pixie was still here. And the two of them saw something outside. And I have to admit, I wasn't paying attention to them because I was involved in the interview. And they both just went crazy barking at whatever was out, whatever dog was outside. And I'm like, I had to put my call on mute, and I'm sitting there laughing, and I'm like, I'm so sorry. Like, I'm trying to sign into the call to the ladies in the call. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. And the two of them are laughing so hard. So I'm like, clearly it didn't impact the interview because I got the job, but I think they just kind of laughed at, they were just laughing more so at the dogs and my reaction than anything. Yeah, it's just, I just love it. And it's really funny to me too about how like Pixie, when Mom lived here still, she would come and we had one of her beds by the kitchen table and, or by the dining table, I guess. She would sit on it when we were both sitting down. And she would rarely use that bed because we had a bed upstairs for her and a bed in the living room and a bed, like one kind of everywhere for her. And the only time she ever used that one is if Mom and I were both at the table. Because Mom was at the table doing something and I was in the living room. She'd kind of lay between the two of us so that she's like kind of in between. She could go see what each of us were up to and keep monitor on us. But it was really funny. She'd only ever use that bed when the both of us were there. I thought that was so funny. Yeah.
Yeah. I would venture to think that when there are also children in the family, that there's going to be one special child that a dog would attach to as well, right?
I would think so too. The dog we had growing up, it was different because Chemo was his name. You met him.
Oh, yes.
He was a border collie crossed with a Sheltie. So it was really interesting because Dad was his main person, but he interacted with each person differently. And because Michael was really young when we got him, I think he was like 5, maybe 6 years old when we got him. So he was quite young. And he would follow him around whenever he had foods because he found it easier to steal food from him.
Oh, of course.
And I think as he got older, he spent a lot of time with him. So he interacted definitely different with Michael than he did with me. He just put up with me because I had to maul him and hug him and play with him. So he put up with me, but I really think he had a stronger bond with Michael, to be honest.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, just because, I went away to school, and he was still living at home with Michael. So I think that was kind of definitely more because they were together longer. So, but it was interesting.
My favorite story of Chemo was that he could tell time.
Yeah.
And your dad told me this. Your dad said, Chemo knows when it's 8:00 at night because he goes and gets your dad his socks and brings his leash and they go for their 8:00 walk.
That's right. And it was funny too because I never saw him have a time change issue either. So I don't know what it was about him. It was just funny because he would just show up. And one time he'd go get a shoe. Or, he couldn't find any socks because there's no socks on the floor in the summer. So he'd go get one of his dad's shoes instead. Here's the shoe, Dad. Time to go.
Time to go. Yeah. Well, all in all, I haven't had very many dogs in my life. My parents got a soft-coated Wheaten Terrier when I was already in Magnum. Yes, when I was in university. My aunt and uncle had a soft-coated Wheaten when I was a little bit younger. And then when it came time to realize that I wanted a dog in my life as an adult, I immediately just went to a Wheaten Terrier because I was in love with the breed and I just knew I would have a very faithful, lovable companion that would be good to live with in a house. Now, where was I going with this?
I like the story about the Wheaten Terrier stealing Grandma's underwear.
Oh, my God. It was Christmas and the house is full of people. There's cousins, there's grandma, there's everything. And out comes Magnum, my mom and dad's dog. And he's got grandma's girdle and he's parading it through the house while grandma could have just died. But you want to talk about connections. A story just comes to mind about Magnum that I just have to share with you. So I was in university in Saskatoon and my parents lived in Rosetown, which is just about an hour away from Saskatoon. And so it was close enough that every once in a while I would need my mom sort of thing and not feel like cooking or whatever the case may be. And I would head out from Saskatoon without telling mom and dad that I was on my way. And mom and dad noticed after this had happened a few times, they noticed that Magnum would go and sit at the bottom of the basement stairs, which directly looked up to the back entry door.
Okay.
And he would sit there and he would not move. And when they noticed this, they'd be like, oh, put another potato in the pot because Lisa's coming home.
Lisa's on her way home.
Lisa's on her way home. That dog intuitively knew that I was coming home.
That is so awesome. I love stories like that.
Yeah. He was a really special dog. Very, very beautiful. He was 100% pet. There was no demands put on that dog, put it that way.
I know. Every time I see like a soft coat, like a Wheaten Terrier, like when I at the park, I always remember stories of you sharing about Magnum, and especially the grandma story with the girdle, because I just found that like one of the best stories. I guess since I had met your grandma too, so I kind of like I can see her just being so embarrassed.
Yes, but laughing her head off.
Exactly. At the same time, it's like I could just see her doing that. It was so funny.
Exactly.
But it's stories like that make pet ownership the best. Like having a pet the best. It's like you just love it, and it's funny like that you say that having that intuitive thing. I noticed with Pixie is that she had 3 types of barks that I could tell. Like she had this big booming alarm bark to tell us there's somebody coming to the house that she doesn't know.
Yep.
And then she had a slightly different bark for, there's a dog, somebody walking their dog by my yard. And then there's another bark that she knew the person that was coming up the stairs. And I remember one time, we used to have Sunday dinners quite often when Mom was still living here. And we would be getting ready for dinner, and I'd be like, oh, Mike's here. And Mom's like, how do you know? Pixie told me.
Yeah.
And as soon, cause she had that different bark. And there'd be a couple little barks, and then Michael would walk in the door. She knew. And it was the same, she would give that same bark when friends of mine that she knew would come over, or when Annie Shirley and Uncle Brian had pulled up to the house and were walking up to the gate. Like she knew people she knew, she gave that certain bark to. And so it's like, we know somebody who Pixie likes is coming in the house right about now. But it's interesting that dogs have that. Like they have that. Like they know who the good people are. They know who it's good to be around and who's going to take good care of them. They know that.
I think to end our conversation here, Marla, I just want to say that I want to be the type of person that at a party with 20 people, the dog chooses to come sit by me.
That's right. That is like the best type. I think that's the best thing, best job. You've been acknowledged by that dog that you're the good person in that group.
Yeah, exactly. I'll take it.
Yeah, absolutely. That's awesome.
Yeah, for sure.
That's the best way. I think that's the best way to end it for today.
Sure thing.
Thank you so much for joining me, and I hope sometime you'll come. I'll be able to call you back, and we can have another long chat like this, because it's always great to have a good chat about pups.
Exactly. And next time I talk to you, I'd like a story to go like this. Diesel now walks beautifully beside me and doesn't bark at other dogs.
So this is what you'll be working on, and you're going to be so jealous if he does that for Jason first.
Oh, you're darn right.
That's going to be like the best thing. Okay, so Diesel works really well on the leash, but just for Jason right now.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Oh, thank you so much for joining me.
Oh, you're very welcome. This has been a great conversation. It's always good.